Ladies and gentlemen, hello, Sharif here. Welcome to the channel that tells you others don't. Recently, I come across, somebody complaining about a mod misfiring and do this. So I thought, it misfires haphazardly and what have you. But I thought maybe the majority of us, maybe the long-term vapers will know that. But there's a lot of new people. A lot of new vapers are coming out to the scene, and good for them, and I hope they stick to it. The misfiring and what have you. One of the basic rules when you start vaping is the contacts. You probably hear about it, here and there and everywhere. The contact between the pod or the coil and the actual battery itself. So now, as a rule, I've learned that through the years, 10 years plus, worth of vaping. So, in the old days, my goodness me, what did you used to get? Batteries overheating, chargers melting, all that is in the past. But us old vapers, we have learned a lot out of that one. So I thought I'll pass the information, or I'll just mention it yet again. The contact, they are very important. So because what you're dealing with liquid or condensation that sometimes seeps through and it goes into the battery, especially on mods that have auto sensors, because auto sensor relies on a tiny hole that is down there. Not that one. That one hasn't got it. Let's take something like an Inokin battery there, and I don't know whether you can see in there, but the sensor is a tiny hole that is in there. I'll take a bit of a close up out of it and show you what it is. So the sensor goes straight through. So I'm not a technician or anything like that, but there's a hole there. The hole makes it so because it's a sensor, so it has to is only draw activated. So with these type of mods, there is a lot of heat that gets involved in there. So the coil gets quite hot, when you're firing at 13 watts, 15 watts, 20 watts, or what have you. There's a lot of heat that happens in there. So it's not only leakage. Leakage is something very much of the past. But nevertheless, you will get a lot, quite a bit of condensation sometimes, especially given differences in temperatures and all that. The point I'm trying to say is every time you take a coil out or you take a pod out to refill it, most of them you have to take it out and you have to either press to fill on that one, or most of them have got a plug on the side there. The most important thing is you fill it at least once a day, at least. The average vapor, the mouth to lung vapor is 3.5 mil. Most of these tanks are 2, or these pods are 2 mil, so it has to be done once a day. On the direct lung ones, these need to be filled a lot more, than than the once a day, because you can consume up to 6 mils because it burns at a higher temperature. And here, notice their higher temperature means it could be more condensation because there's more heat going on in there. So the key in here is to dry every time you fill it, dry the pod, at the bottom, inside, and that side. You will find some condensation that is left in there, but this will always happen. So the basic rule is to dry both the pod, at the coil at the bottom, and the battery side, especially if it is an auto sensor, in there. Now, if you leave it for too long, you don't clean it, over a period of time, the liquid eventually, or condensation, will make its way through through that tiny hole. The sensor will make its way through to the circuitry, and it will render it unusable. It will be finished. I have one of the highest viewed videos. It was made for the Coco, but it also it applies to the same principle applies to other ones, and that is the same thing, because it was sort of misfiring. It doesn't draw properly and all that, and it's a simple thing. I'll put the link up there. It's the highest viewing video of my channel. So please, just a very basic thing for vapers, especially beginners, always clean the contacts. Whenever you fill, just a piece of tissue, put it in there and you're done. You can see there, this is on an Inokin Scepter battery. I mean, this has been sitting, there for some time actually. I thought, that would be a classic example of showing you what's it like. You can see the sensor there sitting, in that well, and it's poking out of it, just a bit. So. If you leave it for too long, and liquid will eventually seep through to the sensor, and that's what is going to cause some sort of a shorty and starts misfiring and what have you. The key thing is to keep drying these things. Not keep drying them, but make a habit of it. Every time you fill it, you just put some tissue in there and make sure it is dry. The same thing happens with the with the pod itself. There you go, you can see, there's a bit of condensation in there, again here. So all you need is, every time you fill it, you just wipe it with a piece of tissue. So us vapers always have tissues, lying around, because of it, simply for that one. And also when you fill it from here, usually when you put the plug back in, you will get a bit of liquid. So all you do is a bit of that, and you do the same thing with that one, as well. So every time you fill, make sure that these contacts are, quite dry, because that's where the problem comes from. That's the vaping for you. I have that's Sorin there, the Sorin Ace. I mean, that's another reputable company, and you can see again there around the sensor, which is that silver thing, in between the two contacts there, you can see there is still a bit of condensation. I haven't been using it as much as the, as other ones, but I've been using it on and off, that one, and it hasn't been sitting there for days and days. The Inokin was. But that one, you can see, there is a bit of, condensation there. So all of them do it. You name it, you just name anything, they will always do the same thing. So, yeah, the key thing, the most important key thing is, so every time you fill a pod, make sure the contacts are dry. So I thought I'd point that out to you, because it's quite important, and some people get mishaps. Maybe not everybody, reports that thing. Some people just get on with it, but some others will say, "Oh no, this mod is crap," and is haphazardly firing and all that. Which I do understand that. Yes, it does happen, but it's such a simple thing to do. Dry every time you fill it, dry the connections, and you'll be fine. So I hope that is helpful. Any comments, please fire away. Thanks very much for watching, and see you again in another video. Bye bye.